World of Disney became Disney Store, became Shop Disney, became Disney Store again. This is getting complicated.
Soarin to tower. We are ready for takeoff.
What is the value of the Disney name? That's what the executives at Disney were asking after Walt Disney died. Would the company be able to keep making the things they had been without their leader? Could Disney continue after Disney, after all? Well, 15 years later, in the 1980s, the answer seems to be no. Disney was not doing well, which is why they hired Frank Wells from Warner Brothers and Michael Eisner from Paramount Pictures to try to help right the ship. Of the many changes they made, Eisner and Wells realized that there was money to be made if people could buy Disney merchandise outside the gates of the Disney parks. This was something they had never done before, outside of one store in the Orlando airport. So it was a risky venture. But the company launched their very first Disney store in Glendale, California on March 28, 1987. Here, Disney fans could buy costumes, stuffed animals, and more, all surrounded by statues of Disney characters so cool that Imagineers eventually thought of using them to replace the interesting Superstar limo. Just like the parks, the employees here were cast members, trained the exact same way they would be for the park, to make it feel like this store was an extension of one. Despite, or maybe because of, how new an idea this was for Disney, people really liked these, and it became an explosion of popularity. Disney kept opening more and more locations, including one in London in 1990 and one in Japan in 1992. Eventually, there were stores in the United States, Canada, Denmark, the UK, Ireland, France, Japan, Italy, Portugal, Belgium, Australia, and Hong Kong. 749 in total around the world. In fact, these were so successful that Disney started making merchandise just for the stores that you couldn't buy anywhere else. This wasn't just an extension of the parks or a way to buy stuff from the parks outside of the parks. This was its own experience. Huge displays, clips from Disney movies playing everywhere, the coolest new toys, huge statues and paintings. There was no cooler place to be, other than maybe Disney World, than the Disney Store. I remember going there all the time as a kid. If we were at a mall with a Disney store, we were going to the Disney Store, where I would almost always find something to buy. I tell you, these stores were effective. Unfortunately, the other thing they were was super expensive to run. Owning any store is expensive. Owning a store in a mall is worse. Owning 700 mall stores across the world, all packed with every decor item possible, that's going to take a lot to run. To combat this, in 1996, the Disney Store would expand to the internet. While not as much of an experience as the physical stores, this would be a game changer in letting you buy Disney stuff from your house. It still wasn't enough, though, to make it a good business venture for Disney. So, in 2004, Disney turned to other companies to run them. Basically, the Oriental Land Company in Japan and the Children's Place in the US would pay to run these stores with permission to use Disney's branding and merchandise, and they would split the profits. This also, however, meant that Disney didn't have the kind of control they used to when they actually owned them and ran them. Just the terms of the licensing agreement that said that the stores had to be kept up and remodeled every so often. Evidently, though, that was more than the Children's Place was willing to do, so they abandoned the stores. Luckily, Disney had just bought Pixar, and Pixar executive Steve Jobs had also just opened Apple's new flagship store back in 2001. So Bob Iger and Steve Jobs worked together to reimagine the Disney stores from the ground up. Now they would be called Imagination Parks, that would put an emphasis on interactive experiences that brought the Disney magic to life, with the help of the team that would eventually design the London M&M's world. Disney bought back the locations in Japan and rolled out the new design in a few stores across America. Alas, it may have been a little too late. By now, the retail landscape was changing, and fast. Mall stores were not the groundbreaking getaway that they once were. By 2012, there were only around 200 Disney stores left in North America. Despite the physical store struggling to work, though, the website was doing great. That may have been why they rebranded it in 2017 to Shop Disney instead of the Disney Store. The new identity meant that no matter what happened with the stores, the website could keep succeeding. because it really didn't seem like Disney had any faith left in their physical stores. In 2019, they announced at D23 that certain Target locations would be getting their own mini Disney stores. And then, less than 1 year later, COVID forced all the stores to close. Instead of reopening them after the pandemic ended, though, Disney decided to just keep almost all of them closed permanently. And then, just yesterday, the website was rebranded back to Disney Store. While some people think that this signals a grand return to the past glory of Disney retail, many think the opposite. They're not going to use the name for a store, so they might as well use it here. The Disney Store is so weird in that, at least on paper, nothing's really changed. Eisner and Wells wanted to get more money by selling Disney merchandise outside of the Disney parks. And they're still doing that. Well, not them specifically, but one website isn't the same as a fleet of stores in malls across the world. Yes, there are still some Disney stores open, but not nearly as many as there used to be. These creative and imaginative places were the hallmark of an era of Disney that was undefeated, with a global reach that gave them so much freedom. It's not likely that we'll see anything this massive and far-reaching from them ever again. Even malls themselves are having trouble staying open, let alone the stores inside them. It's weird to see this and this called the same thing. But I think that's what makes Disney so magical. That something long gone can hold just as much enthusiasm now as it did when it was still here. Plus, we've still got World of Disney, and the Emporium, and Creation Shop, and off the page. You know what? I think we're fine here. Until next time, be sure to gather all your belongings from the underseat compartment and exit to your right.